Dan O'Dowd.
And when it's trade deadline time, do you know who you go to I think he was on all day long. Right?
Yeah.
I think he was on all day long. And they put it on a graphic. And it was phenomenal. Talking about trade deadline deals. I even wrote it down, and I've been using it. The great Dan O'Dowd joins us here on A's Cast Live again. And Dan, I hope all is well. I hope all is good with the family and the new family business. And I got to tell you, I wrote down the thing that you put together, and it blew people's minds about the prospects at the trade deadline. How are you?
Chris, how are you? Good to hear you. Good to see you again, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, I tell people all the time, we love the ex-players. Ex-players are great. They give you great insight. But to me, when you have somebody that has the resume from Colorado to Cleveland, to all the things you've done in baseball and building teams and everything, I think it's so important that you're around, especially like the trade deadline, to add that perspective. You were on all day long. Every single time I kept going back, you were on. It was fabulous stuff. But that what you gave us with the prospects, how many guys don't make it, it is truly alarming, because all we sell at this time is the unknown prospect is better than the known.
Yeah, I think the key there is, Chris, for me, the point I was trying to get across is, like, we always talk about players that within the game that clubs want to acquire. You really just have to know your own players exceptionally well. And there's different lists of players within an organization. There's impact guys, there's contributors, there's value players. The impact guys, you should not trade unless you're getting back an impact player that you actually control for a while, or you're this close to being able to put yourself in a great position to go to the World Series. The rest of those guys, they're all in fair play. And yet as an industry, we hoard these prospects as if, they're gold. And if you just look at the past trading deadlines I did it from 2013 on, there's just not many of the players that are traded that end up being impact players at the big league level. So I thought it would just give a good perspective when we talk about all the young players that are traded, how many are actually going to make an impact for the team that's acquiring them.
It was great because they actually used it for a couple of days. When Bob Costas the next day is putting up your graphic and then you go, hey, this thing's powerful. I wrote it down and I've been using it. And I just think about in your career, all the great players that you've been around, as we mentioned, all the different places that you've been. I mean, you've been around Hall of Famers. You've been around some of the greatest players. I mean, would you do it differently if you were to do it all over again? How you dealt with prospects, star players, trading players? Would you do it differently?
Well, some of the markets that I was in, Chris, we didn't have a lot of budgetary flexibility. So prospects ended up playing such a huge role for us because we couldn't bottom fill with the free agent market in any way, shape, or form. And some of the ownership groups I was with weren't like uber aggressive at the trading deadline. They wanted the teams built for more sustainability. Like in Cleveland, the one thing Dick Jacobs, who's a wonderful owner to work for, what he said to John Hart all the time, he goes, you guys do what you want to do, but I don't ever want to stink. So I'd love to win, but I don't want to win at all cost. And so we never really made that Randy Johnson trade or that trade that maybe could have got us over the hump because of the depth of talent that would have cost us. Because I thought we did a really good job in evaluating our own players, and so did other organizations for that matter too, and trying to acquire our players. And so all the ownership groups where I work for were always more about wanting to put the teams in a position each year to have a chance to play meaningful games in September, knowing October's a crapshoot. So a lot of the decisions you make as a GM, believe it or not, come from the overall direction of what the ownership group wants to do that you're involved with.
You know what it's like to be in a really tough situation as the leader.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're the leader of the franchise. You're the leader from the top to the bottom. David Force right now, with all the stuff going on that's out of his control. It's out of his control. And all the stuff, and Billy Beane had it. It's now been passed to David Force. Ballpark stuff, business stuff, all that. The front office has no control over that. Just tell us, from what you've dealt with and just kind of stepping in the shoes of David Force, how tough it is to have all the chaos around you and you have no control. You just can focus on what you can control, and that's the baseball.
Chris, that's really well said. I'm actually not even sure I can say it any better than that. The reality of it is sometimes you're just handed a deck of cards that the only thing you can do at that point in time is look down the road with every decision you make. The reality of it is as important as big league games are each and every night in David's world, because I lived that world in Cleveland from 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93. I mean, we're losing between 95 and 100 games a year. And in Colorado after 2000, 2001, basically up to 2007, we were horrible. And so you just got to, you don't, I mean, the losses, even though you're going to lose, the losses still kill you. I mean, it's just, I can't tell you how miserable losing games are from a front office perspective. But you take solace in the fact if you see progress of players that you've drafted and began to develop, starting to make meaningful strides in their player plan to be as good as they can be, that gives you hope. Now, what's really hard for David, which wasn't as hard for us, like in Cleveland, we knew Jacobs Field was getting, we saw the dirt being built. We knew it was going up. We knew how much more revenue that was going to mean to us. In Colorado, we had a beautiful venue, high attendance, even when we stunk. David just doesn't even know any of that. So as he tries to time the wave of the next opening in the A's window of opportunity to win, he doesn't even know when that is. And so I don't think I've ever been through something as difficult as what David is going through right now. And I hope he understands that he's got, like, Galoff shows like he's a keeper. Butler comes up and starts to show some signs. Susak's had a really good year in high A. Like, all of those things have to mean something to you now because you literally are fighting a losing battle night in and night out at the big league level.
I know you were asked a ton about Shohei Ohtani will stay in division, about whether to trade him or not. Obviously, they made the decision not to trade him. Now you're going to get asked about how do you sign him? How do you go about that? And recently, we've noticed cramps in his legs, in his hands. Obviously, it's a skill set we've never seen before. I don't call him the greatest player. I just say it's the greatest skill set we have ever seen. He could be one of the all-time greats, but you'd need longevity. But it's a skill set like no other. But now, as a general manager, you have to think about that. If I'm going 10 years or whatever, and he's in his prime, and we're now dealing with cramps and dealing with fatigue, how do you factor in as a general manager, whether you're keeping him with the Angels or you're someone like the Dodgers? How do you factor this in? Does it scare you?
Oh, it does. I mean, this is the most complicated contract I think that we could actually say in the history of the game to try to actually put a valuation number on it. I will say, Chris, I think he means more to the Angels than any other team in the game. I think they know from a measurable standpoint exactly what their ROI is on Shohei Ohtani. Any other market does not know that. They know, like, how much this guy actually means from a revenue standpoint and what he does for that franchise. And so once they made a decision not to trade him, I can't believe they can let him go. Now, he may have already made his mind up. He's going to leave. But once you made that decision to not acquire any talent for him at all, you almost are in a position where you got to do everything humanly possible to convince him to stay, including money. Saying that, I don't think you can value this contract moving forward, that if it's a 10-year deal, I don't think he's going to be a starting pitcher for 10 years in the future. I just don't. You already see some physical wear and tear. He's a tired young man right now trying to do what he's trying to do. And fatigue leads to injury at some point in time. I said this early on. I'll say it again. I eventually seen him to be a John Schmaltz, where he'll be an everyday position player and he'd be your back-end closer because it's less wear and tear in that role than any other role in the game. But I just can't see how physically he could hold up trying to do both at the elite level that he currently does. I mean, it's just incredible how talented of an athlete this young man is. But if someone pays him to be an ace of your rotation and an impact MVP type position player, at some point in time, I don't think you're going to get a return on that investment whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about the winter meetings and the off season. And when I run into you in Nashville, I'm going to ask you the same question. We look at the disaster that's the New York Mets, what happened with them. We look at the San Diego Padres, the amount of money they have committed, that continues to be. And there's some rumblings that there could be some financial troubles for ownership down the way. Will this year, looking at the Padres, looking at the Mets, looking at all the shortstops that signed for that money, and I'm not sure people are happy with those contracts, will people look around and go, man, that was all a bad idea, let's not do that again? Or will we fall into the same trap come this winter?
I think last winter was unique. I mean, if you think about it, we went through a pandemic, which dramatically affected our game, affecting the entire country and every person in it. And then we got our game back on the right footing. And then it was an unbelievable group of talented players on the market. And so I think last year was an anomaly in the sense that there was money in the game and the ownership group decided to spend it on elite players. You're going to have to wait to see if those contracts are good or bad. It's hard to evaluate on a one-year basis. You got to look at that in the aggregate at some point in time. But Chris, I definitely think it's going to pause teams to think about making that kind of commitment again. And I think it's going to pause. You can't build super teams in baseball. You can't do what the NBA does because it takes 40 players, 26 that are on your roster, and they all have to kind of mesh together. It's not, like I say this all the time, I hope this makes sense to you. Is it about the 9 best or the best 9? Because the Padres are an example of the 9 best. I mean, oh my gosh, they're one of the more talented teams in the game. But when you watch them play, they don't fit together as a team that's playing something bigger than the person they're lockering next to. And I think great teams have the ability to do that. And I think it's just the same thing I said when this took place, when it happened. Don't think you can buy a championship. I think, if you just take a step back with the Padres, what was wrong with Cronenworth and Kim? Kim's having an MVP year that no one even talks about.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, that's our shortstop and second baseman. That's the group we're going to build. We're going to build around. We've got Tatis coming down. Let's add to the bottom of our rotation. Let's add to the middle of our bullpen. But man, we got a really pretty good core here to move forward with. I think there's just a danger all the time of trying to squeeze another player in, thinking that's going to get over the hump. What's going to get over the hump is how the team plays together. And your culture creates this environment where there's an intolerance for anything that gets in the way of losing. And when you see Soto's comment coming out of that Seattle thing, there's nobody that's in the way of losing. No one's standing up and saying, hey, this is unacceptable. When you watch them play, there's no sense of urgency. And I just feel like people will actually look at that more this winter and pause more than even the individual money spent on contracts.
You can get this kind of insight. You're going to have MLB Tonight coming up. It's going to be 3 p.m. Pacific, our time. Dan is going to be on. Let's end on this. I know you've created a great company with your son that can benefit hitters, players, whether we're talking baseball, softball. We got a lot of parents that watch the show. Talk about how's the company going with your son?
It's going great, Chris. I mean, like any other company, we certainly have our challenges as a startup. But the difference we're making in kids, baseball, bridging the gap between their potential and performance, it's just been so gratifying. And, in our system now, like any software company, we're developing it to the point now you can hit within our system that the newest thing that we've run out, I've done with my youngest son who plays at the University of Texas. It's called Live Pitch. So you can you download it into your phone, and then your son or your daughter is in the Oculus Quest 2 or soon to be Quest 3 headset. I then am the pitcher. So I can sequence my son while he is now hitting live on the field. So I can go fastball away, slider in, fastball up. So whatever I feel like he needs to work on in both his pitch recognition and his bat to ball ability, I am sitting in a chair while he's performing and I'm competing with him in that bats and situations. I mean, it is so interactive. It's so emotionally cool. And I just feel like it's like a game changer that's never been done before. And I think we just keep making more progress and more progress and more progress. And I hope everybody realizes how much better they can get. He saw 77 pitches the other night in 25 minutes, and he only needed to probably see 50 in 15 minutes to get better doing it. And that's what makes it really cool, Chris.
Yeah, the next wave, because we can do biomechanics, we do it in all sports, what the human body can do. The one thing that really is we can look at all the data and analytics and all that kind of stuff. I guess I try and stay in my lane, but it's neuroscience. It's the study of the brain, and how do we eyesight in your brain, and
that's all we're doing, Chris.
Right?
What hitting is about. Hitting is about the ability to map your brain to recognize pitches as soon as you possibly can, so you consistently be on time. Certainly, you have to have a good swing. You have to, your ability to take the bat to the ball in the correct biomechanical way is so important. But it all starts with your ability to see the ball out of the hand as you have milliseconds to make a decision. So why Major League hitters are so good, because they've seen thousands and thousands and thousands of pitches. And all that does is every pitch that you see maps your cortex to recognize that's a skill that you're getting good at. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. The whole foundation of our company is simply off of that, is the understanding that the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And the more you can do it in a competitive, real life way, the better you'll get at it too.
Is there a website people can look at?
winreality.com. I encourage everybody to go on and take a peek at it.
Well, we'll promote it. Hey, it's always an honor to have you on the program. We're always
Thanks,
smarter.
Chris.
We're smarter when you come on the program.
That's humbling, but you do a pretty good job yourself. And hey, don't sleep on the Giants this year. They're the antithesis of the San Diego Padres. The sum of their parts are way better than their individual parts.
Do you worry about their lack of innings pitched by starters?
Certainly. I worry about their lack of offense over the last month of the season. But I'll tell you what, they've got the third best starting ERA in the National League. They got the second best bullpen ERA in the National League. And they have a winning environment. And if they never panic as an organization, and I don't know how good enough they are to run deep into October, but I think they're going to get in October. And when Harrison gets up there, they legitimately have three good starting pitchers.
Have a great show today, and let's talk.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, buddy. Good to talk to you. Bye-bye.